Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Second Time Lucky. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Mahi.
And we will be your hosts. Throughout this podcast, we will discuss transplants, the process of organ donation, and the ins and outs of my personal heart transplant experience.
Just a heads up, some of the content might be a bit triggering. While we aim to keep things quite fun, mortality and medical procedures are discussed throughout the series. Also, a coarse language warning because we have a tendency to swear like sailors. Sorry!
We would also like to say that we are not medical professionals, so please do not seek any medical guidance from the Second Time Lucky podcast. But we do encourage a transplant dialogue.
We hope you enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoyed making it.
Episode 1. What led to Nicole's transplant? Part 1.
Hello.
Hi.
I am Mahi, and I'm here with Nicole, who
I have had a heart transplant in June 2018. And Mahi has not had a transplant.
That is correct. I had many questions, and I'm assuming a lot of other people do as well. So we figured, why not record all these questions, and then people will know a bit more about heart transplants, and hopefully transplants in general.
Yeah, and let's spread awareness, destroy the stigma. Let's just get this stuff out there.
So today we're going to talk about what led to the transplant. Did you want to, before we start talking about that, did you want to let everybody know what age you were when you had the transplant and what age you are now?
Yeah. So I had my transplant in 2018 when I was 28, and now I am 31. So it's been 3.5 years.
And at quite a young age, quite sprightly.
It was quite a young age, which actually isn't abnormal. Like, I thought, like, going into this, that being in my 20s was, like, very unusual, but I was wrong.
Yeah, I was definitely of that mentality. I was like, she must be 1 in a million.
Even
this is unheard of. Call the press.
Like, oh my god, poor me. I was in my 20s, and then I went to the hospital, and like there were so many other people. I was like, bloody hell, I'm not special.
You were special in other ways.
I think so.
You were great at cross stitching at one stage.
I really actually was great at cross stitching.
You're the heart transplantee that's great at cross stitching.
Right.
No one can take that away from you.
No. Yeah, no.
How did it all start, Nicole?
I know. Oh, well, I mean, all right. I'm gonna do relatively short, sharp, shiny. Otherwise, we're gonna be here all day.
I mean, I got time, but do what feels comfortable.
So, as I mentioned, I got a heart transplant. So, like I said, I was 28 when I actually had my transplant, but things kind of started relatively early on in my life. There was kind of indication that something wasn't quite right with me, but we couldn't ever really figure out what was going on. So, my earliest memory was when I was sleeping at my grandparents' house.
How old were you?
I'm going to say like roughly 13.
Okay, super young.
Yeah, and I was just sleeping in the same bed as my sister, and I felt like my heart was going crazy, and that was something that I'd never really experienced before. And like I woke my sister up, and I was like, I don't know what's happening to me. I didn't know what panic attacks were back then, or like I'd never experienced anxiety or anything like that. And I said to her, like, get our grandparents and call mum and dad, like something's wrong. Anyway, my grandparents came to the room and I was fine. By the time they got there, I was okay. But my parents came home and suggested to take me to the hospital, obviously, just to make sure everything was okay.
And at this stage, did you know about did your parents know about any heart conditions in the family where they're like, oh shit, this might be linked to that? Okay.
No. Yeah. I mean, not that I know of. Especially back then, my grandparents were healthy, my parents were healthy, no one in my family's died from heart conditions or even had a heart condition at that point. So this was kind of brand new, and I think that's why my mum was like, let's just cover the bases and take her to the hospital and just make sure. Anyway, I remember I did an ultrasound, which I now know is called an echo. Anyway, did that, and they said that I have a hole in my heart, which is super common, honestly, literally not a big deal. Millions of people have that and does not affect them in any way.
Wow, okay.
But they were like, you've maybe had a panic attack.
Okay.
But that was the day that I found out that something was up. I had that little hole in my heart and I had a murmur.
What's a murmur? Didn't think to ask.
I don't know the proper term.
Should we look it up?
Yeah, maybe look that up. I feel like that's important information to know. But I do remember that they were like, you have a slight murmur. I think it's like how your heart sounds. Yeah, look, do a quick Google.
Yeah, murmur of the heart.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a movie. A low continuous background noise in relation to your heart.
Yeah, so there's like a little echo going on in the background.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So they essentially just sent me home and was like, keep doing your thing, you're fine, you'll be right.
Yeah.
And I feel like I went a few years and I was totally fine, and then I started fainting. So, like, it was once every blue moon at this stage. Like, I remember I'd, be at home and I'd be making a tea and I'd be like, oh, shit, I'm going to faint. And I would, but I would literally get up and continue my day. Like, it did not affect my life in any way. And, like, it would happen at school and, random times. But like I said, it did not affect me. I did not know that it was my heart. So it didn't scare me. It was fine.
Yeah, you're really good at downplaying that. Nicole and I went to school together, but I remember you'd bring it up, like, that you had fainted. I'd be like, why didn't you do your homework last night? You'd be like, because I fainted. I'm like, oh, good excuse. Like, it was like, I knew you had fainted, but it was like a joke. Like, it was just like me and my classic fainting. And
it literally was like a part of my personality. It's like, oh, Nicole's down again. Like, yeah, that's all right. But yeah, like, it didn't bother me though. Like, I didn't feel bad after. I didn't feel tired after. I felt normal. So I would just, like, go about my day.
It never seemed like a reason to panic for some reason. Like,
no.
Oh shit, Nicole faints all the time. Like,
no.
I shouldn't be worried about that. It always seemed really normal.
Well, yeah, and like
Yanni gets blood nose all the time. Nicole faints all the time.
Yeah, and like I remember a couple of people in our class used to faint, not as often as me, but they used to faint. And so I was like, well, it's a thing. Like,
yeah, I think I remember that as well.
Yeah. So it wasn't something that I thought of, as being scary or that I should have gotten checked up until it started happening a little bit more frequently. And so my mum was like, hang on a second, red flags, let's just take her in to go get checked. And because I was always quite tall and skinny, they were like, it's because she's tall, if she's getting up too fast, she might faint. And so they were always kind of playing it off, but me and you were kind of the same height growing up, and our other friend was the same height as us. And so my mum was kind of like, I feel like that doesn't sound legit, but okay. So, but they said, look, if it's going to ease your mind, how about we start seeing a cardiologist annually? Okay. So it's not even like, we're going to have these very important meetings, every 3 months. It was like, come in, see a cardiologist, we'll do an echo, an ECG, which is just, the dots that they put, the stickers that they put on your chest to check your heart rate and your rhythm and that kind of thing. And hopefully that kind of eases your mind. And if something comes up, we'll be able to see it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun for me because I used to have a day off school every year. And I remember it was in November and my mum would always say, like, I'll take you on a shopping spree after. And so, like, I didn't care. I was like, all right, sick, I'm going to the hospital. I'm not going to go to school. This is going to be amazing. Spend the day with my mum. So when that happened, my doctor, who obviously was a cardiologist, was kind of like, I think you've got this thing called Marfan syndrome, which I think kind of like the physical side effects are, or like the physical indicators are tall people with like long fingers and who are kind of double jointed. That's like a big indicator that you might have Marfan syndrome. And because I looked a certain way, they were like, that maybe that's what you have. And so I remember being like 15 or 16 and getting like this pamphlet from the Women's and Children's Hospital that was like, what is Marfan syndrome? And I went home and read it and I was like, okay, cool, we'll put that to the side and not ever read that again.
So what was Marfan syndrome? Was like the idea of it that you're like stretched out and so things aren't flowing properly or something?
So, I mean, I'll get the technical term up for what it is, but it is, it's like essentially a genetic condition that affects your heart. But so according to the internet, Marfan syndrome is an inherited disorder that affects the connective tissue. It affects the heart, eyes, blood vessels, and bones.
Okay.
So again, they were kind of very blasé about that, and so I was like, okay, cool, I've got this thing, and easy, cool.
So they told you that you had this thing, but they didn't have like any suggestions of like what to do going forward. It's just like, here is the label of your condition, but no information as to what you do about this condition.
So it wasn't even really a label of my condition. They were like, we think you potentially have this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you do, but I don't know if you don't. So Google it, and here's this pamphlet, and come back next year and I'll see how you are. Very, very blasé about the whole thing. My mum was kind of like, okay, like,
what do I do with that?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, they didn't suggest I take medication. They didn't, nothing. So I was just like, okay.
Stop being so tall.
Stop being so tall. The only thing they did say was maybe playing sport could potentially trigger something. If something is wrong, playing sport could not, be good for it. So I was playing school basketball, if you remember at that time.
I do remember.
Yep. Oh, the potential. The potential that I had just wasted down the drain. So I just stopped playing basketball, which really bummed me out. So yeah, that was literally the only way that impacted my life. I had to stop playing basketball, and I remember like you and all of our other friends were playing.
Yeah, but I hated PE, so I was always really jealous that, like, whenever you told me that your mum wrote a note that you couldn't be in PE, I was like, why can't my mum write
good times, yeah. So yeah, I feel like that was kind of the end of that chapter, and then when I turned 18, because I was seeing that cardiologist at the Women's and Children's, and so when I turned 18, they were kind of like, all right, well, nothing's really come about since then, so good luck, have a good life, and we'll see if anything else happens. And so I was like, okay, see ya.
Hope you make it.
Yeah. See you on the other side. So I was like, okay. So the problem was, when I turned 18, my fainting got like considerably worse. So I was working at my dad's cafe, and I remember I'd be like holding hot coffee and I'd just drop. But again, I wasn't worried about it, so I'd get up and be like, oh, yep, shit, what was I doing? Oh, yep, table 5, need to make them another coffee. Like, I did not let it affect me. And like, I used to catch the bus home from work, and I remember like I was walking through the mall to get to my bus stop, and I actually fainted. And I think I was out for actually a while. And I was in the middle of the Rundle Mall. I remember specifically I was in front of Boost Juice. And I literally was like laying on my back. And I woke up and there was like strangers not necessarily helping me, just kind of staring at me like, what the hell? I'm just going to step over her to get to where I need to go. And I was like, that was the first time that I was like, shit, this is actually quite scary. Me just dropping every now and then. Like, that's not cool.
And was it also not particularly hot weather?
No. Okay. So, like, nothing triggered me.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, I hadn't eaten that day, so I fainted. Or it wasn't like my sugar was low and I fainted. Or like, it was hot weather or something. There was never a trigger.
Yeah.
Or I could never figure out if there was a trigger. But I remember that was the first time that I kind of went home and I said to my mum, like, there's something wrong. And I know this time. And I started getting like a little bit of anxiety about it. I also had my license then. So I was like, what if I faint while I'm driving? Or
that's actually terrifying.
This is scary.
Yeah.
And I remember so my friends and I went to Mildura, and I went to a nightclub there, like the only nightclub there, and I fainted in the middle of the dance floor, and the security guard got me by my feet and dragged me out.
Because they just thought you were drunk.
Because they thought, and my friend was like, what are you doing? You know, she's not well, she faints all the time. And they were like, she's a drug addict. She's obviously a drug addict. And like, so they kicked me out of the club, and I didn't even drink. And so I felt like...
Oh, Nicole, that is so scary.
Yeah, and so that was when I was kind of like, this is kind of getting scary.
Yeah.
And so, this was, I was about 18, 19. When I turned 20, my fainting spells from happening maybe, once every blue moon when I was young to happening once, every month when I was 18, 19 to when I turned 20, sometimes I was fainting 2 or 3 times a day.
Oh my God.
So that was very scary.
Yeah.
And my mum at this point, and both of my parents were, fighting for me. I would go to the hospital. Mum was like, I'm not letting her leave until you figure out what's going on. This isn't normal. This isn't just a height thing. Something's wrong. And my mum would always say, check her heart. And they were like, it's not her heart. She's tall. She's got heavy periods. Like, that's what. Yeah. So.
But also, let's say that it was just because you were tall. Like, surely there's something.
At least give an explanation.
Give something. Give, this vitamin will,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like,
it's also like, my dad's tall. So, like, my dad's not fainting all the time. So why am I fainting all the time?
Yeah.
And, like, our friendship group was always, there was a lot of us that were relatively tall and no one else was feeling the way that I was feeling. So, like, it just wasn't justified.
Yeah.
So, cut to 1st of September 2010.
Yeah, I know this day.
I think a lot of people know this day, unfortunately. It was the day before Father's Day. I was getting ready to go out. A couple of my friends met at my house beforehand, and I was like, I'm just going to quickly jump in the shower, come to mine, hang out with my parents while I'm getting ready type of thing. And thank God the bathroom door was not locked. I had a shower. My parents heard a thud. Obviously, I had fainted. My mum was like, all right, here we go again. She just fainted again. Let's just wait till she comes to. They opened the bathroom door. And I started to change colour and I was turning blue and Mum was like, nah, she's out. Like, she's gone into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
My mum gave me CPR and my dad called the ambulance. I was out. Thank God my sisters weren't home. I feel like that would have been very traumatic for them.
Yeah.
Ambulance came. The ambulance came as my friends also arrived to my house. So, yeah, they kind of dragged me into the hallway, ripped my clothes off, did the whole, put the stickers on me, and shocked me with the defibrillator a couple of times, and just nothing was happening. And they were going to give up, but my mum was like, don't you dare give up!
Yeah.
Having a meltdown, and eventually I got a faint heartbeat. I was taken to the hospital, and the doctors said, look, don't quote me, but we think she has something called long QT syndrome. I was put into a coma. I think I was in the coma for, I want to say 5 days. While I was under, they put an internal defibrillator into my chest. And so essentially, if this was to happen again, the defibrillator should shock me into a regular rhythm and I should be okay.
When your mum gave you CPR though, were you already dead?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. From what I've heard.
That happened insanely quickly then. By the time you had hit the ground, you had likely already died.
It was just kind of like an instant thing.
Yeah.
My body just could not. I guess so I've got a couple of weeks where I don't remember before that happened. So I obviously don't even remember that.
Yeah.
I'm just relaying information from what I've heard.
Yeah.
But I've got about 2 weeks missing from my memory. So, what I can only assume is I must have felt a bit funny beforehand. So I'm assuming my heart rate would have just been through the roof. And my body just couldn't keep up. And I just passed out and my heart just gave up. But that's essentially what long QT syndrome is. So long QT syndrome is a heart rhythm disorder that can potentially cause fast, chaotic heartbeats. And a huge symptom to having long QT is fainting. And so the puzzle pieces were kind of coming together. So I had that internal defibrillator put in. Again, they were like, we think she has long QT syndrome, but we can't really be sure because we didn't, when she came to the hospital, she didn't have that chaotic heartbeat. And while I was in hospital, I didn't have that either. So they never caught it. But according to my symptoms beforehand, like my fainting and all of that kind of stuff, that's what it kind of pointed to.
Well, I mean, they didn't spot it because they wouldn't look at your heart, even when
No,
your mum was
I mean,
like, look at her heart. Like,
exactly. So, like, it was never detected. So that's what all signs pointed to long QT syndrome. So that was my official diagnosis. And so, yeah, so with that disorder, having a defib, an internal defibrillator, is very common. In case I went into cardiac arrest again, that would save my life. So in case I was alone, obviously if my mum wasn't home that day,
yeah,
see you later.
Yeah.
Like, that would be the end of it.
yeah.
So, yeah, that was very lucky. But in saying that, I felt like so obviously, like, that was a huge life change. So
Yeah.
I was 20, working. I just finished TAFE, I remember. I was going on holidays. I was seeing my friends. I was a normal 20-year-old. I mean, you and I used to hang out. We used to go out,
Yeah.
do the usual thing. And then this kind of turned everything upside down. Like, I started to feel really weak and I was in pain all the time and just, like, tired and didn't want to do anything. And I had to start taking medication. And so that used to make me feel really dizzy and lightheaded. And it just really changed everything. And it was also, like, really bad timing because everyone was turning 21. So, like, I was really upset because I was missing out on 21st birthday parties, and, like, it was also like everyone started going to uni and started figuring out the course of their life, and I was kind of like, all right, well, I'm sick now and I'm just going to be here at my mum and dad's house and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And so, yeah, that was rough. But
Did being sick kind of feel like your identity?
oh, 100%.
Okay.
Especially, like, if I walked in a room, everyone would flood to me and be like, how are you feeling? It wasn't like, hey, how are ya?
Yeah.
Nick, nice to see you. It was like, oh my God, how are you?
Oh my God, the
You
eyebrows,
okay?
like...
Yeah, like, it was very much like that. And, I mean, obviously, my parents and I have two sisters, as you know, and I lived at home with my two sisters and my mum and dad. And obviously they have my best interest at heart,
Yeah,
but they were doing the same.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a very kind of depressing atmosphere. Like, I was the sick family member now. They had to take care of me. They had to kind of, like, be at my beck and call. If I was like, oh, I'm thirsty, let me just get up and get myself a drink, Mum was like, no, I got it. Stay where you are. Do you want ice? Like, it was very, suffocating. And
Yeah.
my grandparents would call me 100 times a day, and my aunties and uncles and cousins and friends. And it's like, it's very nice to be loved, but, like, from being so independent and, being 20 and, like, being so carefree to now literally one night changed everything.
Yeah.
So, like, it was very intense. It was very,
Yeah.
like, hard to deal with. And, you guys were all at uni or, like, going on holidays or going out at night. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to stay home because I don't feel very well.
Yeah.
So I felt like, as well, I kind of got left behind.
Yeah. And then also I imagine that would, like, it's not just your physical health, but your mental health would be making you not want to go outside. Because it's like
100%.
the fear that you're going to have the same conversation all again. Also, just you haven't been around people for so long that maybe being around new people is just going to, you won't know how to do it or something like that.
Yeah, well, it, like, became very repetitive. Like, how are you feeling? I just used to say, like, yeah, I'm fine. Good. Even if I was having the worst day, I was like, I'm good. Yeah, things are good. Family's good. I'm great. Yep, let's just move on. Like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like, this is really depressing. From there as well, my defibrillator started shocking me. So that essentially means that my heart would go into such chaotic rhythm that, again, my body just would not be able to keep up. And if I did not have a defibrillator, this would be another cardiac arrest. And so my defibrillator started shocking me again, just like the whole fainting thing, once every blue moon. And then it started happening very frequently. And so from that, I got very bad anxiety, like crippling, did not leave the house for years anxiety.
I remember you saying that you couldn't even go to your letterbox.
Yeah, so I went to my letterbox. I remember, like, I heard the postie, and I was like, Mum, I got it. I'll go get the letters. And I fainted on the grass.
Oh my God.
Just from, like, anxiety from being out of my comfort zone. Like, literally from being, instead of being in my room, I was in my front yard, and that gave me so much anxiety that my body literally was like, nah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then obviously when that would happen, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go anywhere. My friends would be like, all right, just come over then. I was like, nah, if you want to see me, you come to my house.
Yeah.
So, like, it just got ridiculous. I started fainting in the shower. I started having panic attacks. It was really bad. Yeah, so that escalated. And then that kind of went on for 7 years. So from 2010 to my defibrillator, to, me getting the defibrillator, finding out I had a heart condition, taking medication, that was pretty steady until 2017. Things started escalating. My defibrillator was shocking me a lot more. Started to feel a little bit off again. Something just was not quite right.
But you also went to Melbourne between then, and that was like, you did that. Did you do that as like a shock to the system? Like whatever you were doing wasn't working, so time to just do something completely ridiculous.
100%. So like I said, I just felt smothered.
Yeah.
And one of my best friends was like, I'm moving to Melbourne, I'm really excited about the move. And, she helped me so much in this thing.
Yeah.
And so having her leave, also just like having a friend move away, I was like, no, what am I going to do without you?
Yeah.
And she was huge in my recovery and being so understanding, helping me deal with all this stuff. And so I honestly just felt like I would have been really lost without her.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend at the time was also a really good friend of mine, and I just thought I'd miss them a lot.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I thought, you know what, this is going to be a really good opportunity to step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fly to Melbourne alone to visit them. So I did that slowly. Oh, I would take like a Xanax and go on the plane. And I remember I would talk to my sister up until we would leave, up until like, the plane would fly. And then I'd call her the second that I would land because I just needed that comfort.
Yeah.
And then I did that once, I did that twice, I did that 3 times, kind of effortlessly. And I was like, hang on a second, maybe it's Adelaide that is causing my anxiety.
Yeah.
And so at this point, my friend was like, oi, just move here. Like, just do it. Just come here for 3 months and see how you go. And if worse comes to worse, just go home.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a big deal. And so I was like, no, I can't do it. It's too scary. Nah, I'm not ready.
Massive change, especially
huge
with like the condition that your body was in.
Well, it's also like, I can't go get the letters from my letterbox, but I can move into state by myself. Like, no. My brain,
busiest city in Australia.
Yeah. My brain was like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I remember I flew home. We had that conversation. Me and her. It was just like a very like kind of in passing conversation. We didn't make any concrete plans. She was like, go home, think about it, and if you want to do it, and if not, just come visit. And I remember I flew home to Adelaide and I was in my bed, in my room, in the house that I was living with my parents and my sisters. And again, I feel like suffocated is a mean word. I didn't feel suffocated. I just felt very stagnant. Like, I was like, I'm so comfortable. I'm going to blink and be 40 years old, still living here and having my parents, be at my beck and call. I need a change.
Well, it could also be the suffocation was in your own mindset, and that mindset just happened to live in that house, live in that city.
I think also my thing was everywhere that I had been shocked by my defibrillator was now a huge cause of my anxiety.
Wow, okay, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, so like my bathroom scared me.
Right, of course.
My bedroom, which was once my safe place, scared me.
Yeah.
The TV room scared me. My friend's house that I'd fainted at scared me. Going in my front yard was scary. So I was like, I think I just need an absolute change.
Yeah.
So I was in my bed and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to move to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And I think this was like a Wednesday. And I think that was like a Tuesday night. And on the Wednesday, we had like a family dinner. And I was like, guys, I think I'm going to move to Melbourne. And my my family laughed. Like, they literally laughed in my face. They were like, yeah. Nice one. Yeah, cool. And I was like, no, I'm being serious. Like, my friend and I spoke about it. I think I need a change, and being home it's not beneficial. Like, I need a huge change.
Yeah.
Not like...
Shock to the system.
I need a huge shock to the system.
Yeah.
My mum was like, hell yeah, do your thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, she was great. She was like, do it. But she was like, obviously, there's a few conditions that I want.
Yeah.
I want you to find a cardiologist when you're there. I want you to find a GP when you're there. Blah, 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 blah. A very mum way of,
But that's awesome. Like,
yeah, she was great. I think also my mum, I used to cry to my mum all the time and tell her that I was really upset about... My mental health was just honestly in the toilet at that point. And so my mum was like, anything that is going to make you feel better, I am a fan of. So, like, whatever. You want to move to Melbourne, see you later, I'll help you pack. Like, let's do this. Let's get your life back on track. Because I was 24 at this point. I just turned 24. So, yeah, even in myself, I was like, no. This is something that needs to be done. My dad... I mean, my dad's just an emotional guy, as it is. So I was like, Dad, I reckon I'm going to try to go on Saturday, because if I dwell on it and overthink it, I'm not going to go. So do you mind driving me there? And he was like, why do you want to leave? It was very, like, my big fat Greek wedding style. Like, don't do it. It's going to be a mistake. Please, Nikki, just stay where you are. You're comfortable. You're safe here. Please. And I was like, nah, I've made my decision. I'm going. And I remember I started packing that night, and I called my friend, and I was like, I hope that offer still stands, because I'm coming. Like, get my bedroom ready. I'm coming. So I made my little sister come for the drive too. Saturday morning, I got up at like 5 a.m, packed the car. My dad drove us to Melbourne, and he cried literally for like 6 hours. No. Like, it wasn't even like, you're not well, please, I'm scared. He was just like, don't leave me. Like, what am I going to do without you? Aww. Yeah, it was just, oh, what a darling.
He's the best.
Yeah, he really is just the best. But it was good for him, I think, because he came and he stayed at my friend's house for a couple of nights, so he got to see that I was safe and I wasn't, living in a crack den. I was like, with friends who he knew very well. I was going to be safe and it was all going to be fine. So yeah, I feel like that change was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, my anxiety honestly just started to diminish. Like, I gave myself little goals every day. So I was like, all right, today I'm going to catch a tram by myself. Like, you have to remember, a few weeks before, I couldn't walk down the street alone. Yeah. So, like, I was in a state that I didn't even know, living in a suburb that I had no idea where I was. My friends worked full time, so I wasn't even with them. They were there at night and in the mornings, but during the days I was alone. No family, no other friends there, so it was huge. And so I would give myself little things to do every day. So, like, today you're going to catch a tram by yourself, just to a suburb that you don't know, and you're going to walk around and explore for an hour and then come home. Or today you're going to go get lunch in the city. Something like that. So I would really make it a thing to really push myself every single day. Yeah. But in saying that, if I woke up and didn't feel well, I was like, no, don't push it. Today, you stay home, watch TV all day. They had a dog and 2 cats. So, like, it was the best. I was home by myself, but the dog was there. And so I always kind of had company in that respect. But, so we didn't stay in that house for much longer. We ended up moving to a place called Craigieburn. When I moved there, I noticed a pretty big difference in my health. Okay. Not because of the move or anything, but I don't know. I think obviously just my body was like, I'm starting to struggle a bit.
Yeah, and I guess now Mill was starting to feel like home, and that
so I was comfortable. It wasn't by any means like an anxiety thing. It was just very I don't know, just one of those things. My health was just kind of taking a bit of a turn. But it was weird because I didn't let it affect me the way that I did in Adelaide. Yeah. in Adelaide, if I had, if my defibrillator shocked me, that was it. I'm out for the week. I want to sleep for the rest of the day. Don't talk to me. I'm in a bad mood. Hospital, cardiologist visit. Whereas when that happened in Melbourne, sometimes I didn't even tell my family that it happened.
Yeah.
My mum would call me and my defibrillator would have just shocked me. And she was like, how are you, Nikki? What are you doing? And I was like, I'm good. What are you doing? Like, I actually didn't feel the need because I had taken such big steps. I was like, it's fine. Why stress them out? I'm fine. I'm not in the hospital. Like, I'm fine.
And was that a good thing, not talking about it immediately afterwards?
I think so.
Okay.
I remember, like, obviously when we moved house, we lived with 3 new people that I knew but not well.
Yeah.
And I kind of sat them down, like, on our first night together, and I was like, I've got a heart condition. I have a defibrillator. I put, like, my mum's phone number on the fridge, and I was like, if, I usually faint, but I usually come to. If I don't, call an ambulance. This is what you have to do. This is my mum's number. If the worst case scenario happens, call her. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, I also just wanted to feel comfortable in my own home.
Yeah.
And made sure everyone was aware of my condition and all of that. And I did. I felt safe and I felt fine. They were all great and so understanding. And if I had an off day, they were cool. Let's watch movies today. They were very, very good. It was also good because one of the guys that I was living with also wasn't working. So I always had company. I always felt safe. So that was very, very handy. In that time, I also met Matt.
Oh my goodness.
Who is my fiance. And I think that as well was like the best distraction because I was like in this little love bubble, and so I was like, it doesn't matter if I'm not feeling well. Matt wants to meet for breakfast, so that's it. I'm going for breakfast. So like, and I feel like when you first meet someone, you're just giddy and like nothing's getting in my way.
Yeah.
So like it was great, but I noticed that my defibrillator was kind of shocking me more and more, and something wasn't quite right. So I found a cardiologist.
So you didn't already have a cardiologist? So
I had a GP, but
that was some pretty solid advice from your mom.
Well, so I did tell her. I didn't keep it a secret. Also, I was very comfortable with the cardiologist that I had in Adelaide.
Yeah, okay, that's fair
every time I had an appointment, and because I was quite stable, I would fly home for my cardiologist appointment, which was like once every 6 months, unless I had an issue.
Yeah.
In which I would just go to the hospital anyway.
Yeah.
But at this time, when we moved, I noticed quite a big change in my health, and so I thought I'm gonna get a referral from my Adelaide cardiologist, who I really trust, to refer me to someone in Melbourne that he trusts and that he can kind of also relay information about my history and stuff. So that's what I did. So that also made me feel much better, and he was good with defibrillators, so he could check my defibrillator, make sure my battery life was all good and all that kind of thing. So I felt safe, but something was definitely up.
Yeah.
My health was kind of definitely taking a turn. I definitely felt like something was up. At this point, Matt and I lived with one of our best friends, Kayla, and my heart was honestly just in shambles. I was getting shocked all the time. I remember I got shocked 3 times in one day, and I was by myself.
Oh my God.
Kayla was at work. Matt had just left for work. And I called him and I was like, you need to come home now. I honestly think I'm dying.
Yeah.
Like, this is it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I didn't tell my mum or anyone. It was the day before my birthday. So it was the 30th of March. Of course, classic Nicole. It was the 30th of March. Matt drove me. I called him and I was like, something's wrong. And he yelled out to his boss, like, I'm leaving! And he ran out.
Oh my God.
And he drove me to the hospital, and I was admitted. And the doctor was like, I want you to change this medication and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I don't know you. I'm not comfortable with you. I'm not changing my meds. I've been on these medications for ages. I'm not doing that.
That's awesome that you had the confidence to, like, trust in like the relationship they had with your doctor in Adelaide that you didn't immediately just be like, oh, well, whatever you say, you know, like.
I was very, and I mean I still am, very anal about my medication.
Yeah.
That is something that I take very seriously.
Yeah.
And I also know, obviously from experience from when I was 20 and this stuff first happened, when you change your medication, it's a huge thing and like it impacts your body so ridiculously, you know, like I remember when I first went on medication, I couldn't walk to the toilet without my mum helping me. Like I was so dizzy and lightheaded and your blood pressure drops. And so I said, like, I don't want to do this unless I'm living in Adelaide at home.
Yeah.
And also with a doctor that I know and that I trust.
And who's seen you go through so many
Exactly.
stages.
I feel like, don't get me wrong, I totally respect the hospital doctors, but you're not my doctor.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, you've known me, you've read my chart, you've known me for 5 seconds, and you're telling me to get off all the medication that I'm on and to change it? Not happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think that takes a lot though, because I don't know if in the same position I would have done the same thing. I feel like, you know, there's this like you know, this thing that where you feel like you should just trust what you're being told from, you know, from the professional, you know. And like,
absolutely. And I mean, if this had happened without me having a history, then I would have listened.
Yeah.
But I know my body and I trust my doctor.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so, and I'd had this doctor at this point, it was like 6 or 7 years. No, actually no. It would have been about 4 or 5 years at this point.
Yeah, ages.
So like I had a relationship with this doctor that I trusted him, and so did my family. So I thought, I can't change because that's a huge, and it's also a lot for Matt to handle and for Kayla to handle as well. Me being sick the whole time, getting used to new meds. I just was not ready, and also like mentally ready for that either.
Would somebody have needed to be home with you at all times while you're trying the new medication?
I would say so.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I know the side effects from the medication that I first was on. Like I said, living with my parents, someone was always home. My mum took time off work. She was showering me because I was just so dizzy. I couldn't see in front of me. So, like, I needed someone to be there all the time, but I can't put that kind of responsibility on, number one, Matt, we were together maybe about a year at this point.
Yeah.
Or my friend. It's like, which one do I tell not to go to work and miss out on money for my benefit? You know, that's not cool. Like, that's no. So I said no. I met up with my cardiologist in Melbourne, the Melbourne one. And he was kind of like, I do think that a medication change is in order, but if you're not comfortable, do it when you're home.
Yeah.
That was kind of a very big, you know, that was a very big thing for me to say to Matt. I think I want to move home.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling like myself. I feel like my health is deteriorating. I don't want to put this responsibility on you. I think it's time to move home.
To be continued in episode 2. What led to Nicole's transplant, part 2.